Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. I'm your host, Brandon Starr. This is episode 201 of CryptoBiography, and I don't have a title for it at this point. I will come up with a title post hoc. So what has happened this week is I did some writing, and I got a reasonable amount done, but I realized that while I had some interesting characters, I really didn't have a story, and I needed a story. I didn't want to do a character sketch. I've tried that before, and it's like, it was interesting, but it's not something I really want to do all the time. And in fact, I don't think in this case it would have even made a very good character sketch, because like what I was writing was, it sounded like a story, but it wasn't a story, if that makes sense. Like, there were things happening, but it wasn't heading towards anywhere, and it didn't have any real conflict. Not that I agree that, conflict is pretty much necessary in a story. I don't absolutely think it's completely necessary, because I think there is room for more sort of experimental stories, or just, or stories that are taken in other directions. And I've done some stories like that, but when I did it, I had reasons for doing it. Like, I wasn't just like floating along. But this week I was just sort of floating along, and there was some okay stuff, some characters I liked, but I need to find a story before I can, and I just couldn't, it didn't make an episode for this week. So what am I gonna do? Well, I guess I decided I'll tell you a story, and actually something happened this week that's reasonable for me to talk about. So a few days ago, I saw a headline, and it said, Shock G rapper found dead in hotel room. Something very basic like that. And while I'm not the biggest like rap fan or hip-hop fan by any means, I do consider myself sort of like, sort of in touch with society and, that sort of thing, that I thought I would like recognize someone who was big enough to have their own headline upon their death. And I didn't recognize the name Shock G at all. But then I looked at the picture, and it's like, I recognized it immediately. It was Humpty Hump from the Humpty Dance by Digital Underground. And it was a weird moment for me for a couple of reasons, and I'll kind of get into it. It was interesting actually learning about him this week, like post hoc, post his death. I knew the song, since it became popular in what it was. I think it was 1990 it came out, something like that. And I always liked it. And I thought it had a great beat and some funny lyrics and all that. But I didn't really hear anything else by Digital Underground, and so I assumed that was just a one-hit wonder, and I just didn't think about it that much. Like, I didn't think, oh, this guy must have gone on to do a bunch of other stuff, or, I just figured, like a lot of one-hit wonders, that, he was, selling cars and, Brunswick or something, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know where Humpty Hump was. And it was interesting to find out that, yeah, his name is Gregory Edward Jacobs. He went by Shock G, which was more his, like, serious name, like rap name, but then Humpty Hump was like an alter ego, and he actually had several of them, and then Humpty Hump just became the most famous because that's the one that had his big hit. But yeah, he like helped bring Tupac to prominence, and and he did some other things, and it was just really interesting to learn more about him. And it was great to learn that, that he wasn't a one-hit wonder, really. I mean, he had that was still his biggest hit by far. His other hits were pretty minor, but he did a lot of other things, which is really cool. And yeah, and but none of that is the reason why I was sad. I mean, it's always a bummer whenever someone dies, at a reasonably young age. He was 57, and we still don't know at this point. This is what, like 6 days later or something, and we still don't know why he died. All we know is that it didn't seem to be like violence or anything like that. So, it could have been like heart attack, it could have been drugs, or who knows. We don't know. I presume we will find out, but it doesn't really matter because he's gone. But it really like hit me in a way that a lot of others didn't. Because like I said, I don't know a lot of rap, but a lot of hip hop. It's funny, like one of the other songs, the only other songs that I really know and love in rap and hip hop is DMX's X Gon Give It To You, and DMX died this week too, which is crazy. Like, I don't know, but anyway. So, but it really hit me when I found out that it was him who died. And the reason was, I don't think I've talked about this on the podcast, or maybe I mentioned it in passing, but I certainly haven't gone into any details. But after my wife died, Jennifer, I had only a few weeks off from work, and then I had to go back to work. There wasn't like a big bereavement policy or anything like that. I used some vacation. They kind of gave me some time too, because my wife actually worked for the same company, and I could have taken her leftover vacation days as a check, or I could have just taken them as vacation, and I decided to take them as vacation. So, I mean, it wasn't terribly generous of them, but, whatever. At the time, it's like, whatever. I didn't even care. But I was in a real state when I came back to work, because it was only a few weeks after she had died. There's still lots to do. I was still in a state, just a state. Like my brain was like, and I couldn't get my brain to settle at all. Especially like this was like one of the first days I was back. It might have even been the first day. I think it was like the second day I came back, because the first day I came back, and it was all weird and whatever. And I kind of found through the course of that first day that I was too distracted by anything. Like I didn't want to just work at my desk, quiet with nothing happening, because I always usually like listen to music or listen to a podcast or listen to audiobooks or whatever. And so I was trying listening to podcasts the first day, and it just wasn't working. Like my brain was in such a bad state that I just could not listen to a podcast. Like everything would just kind of throw me off. So I wanted to listen to music. And so the second day I tried listening to some music, and that really wasn't working either. And so I think it was the third day when I kind of realized what I needed was some music that wouldn't have any sort of strong correlation to Jennifer or our life together or times that we had shared or anything like that. Because, and of course, I like music okay, but I don't have like a huge library of it. So I didn't have like a massive library to kind of go through and maybe make a playlist of songs that I can listen to without like being reminded of something. So what to do? Well, I don't remember exactly what brought it up, but something in maybe I heard about it or read something, or I don't remember exactly what the impetus was, but the Humpty Dance song came to mind, and I realized that like I'd never really owned it in any in any sense. I hadn't bought it on, CD back in the day, or even tape way back in the day. And Jennifer didn't really think much of it, as far as I know, or didn't have an opinion at all, really, as far as I know about that song. And I certainly didn't have any memories related to that song, and I didn't have any memories related to that song. And so I bought the song on iTunes and just listened to it all day. Like I put it on a one song like loop. I just hit the loop button on this one song, the Humpty Dance. And it's kind of a longer song than you remember. It's like a 5-minute song almost. And I just listened to the Humpty Dance all day for an entire work day. I think it was like, I did the math, and I think it was 83 times, if I remember correctly. I listened to that song 83 times during the course of a work day. And I went through all sorts of, and I thought it was funny, and I really liked, the do, I like the sound of it. It has a great beat. It has some funny parts. And you'd think you could, if you think you can't listen to a song 83 times in the course of a day without going insane. Well, I think I was already kind of in an insane sort of spot. So, but it didn't hurt. It actually did help. And I'm sure I kind of went through all different, phases that day of like listening to the beat and thinking about the lyrics and, kind of thinking about how he had written the song and what he was like, what state of mind he was in. And it just kind of helped me get through the day. And I've hardly ever listened to it since then. I mean, just occasionally. I have listened to it occasionally because now that I've bought it on iTunes, I still have it on my Apple account. And so it kind of comes up once in a while. But basically, I listened to it 83 times in one day in a row with listening to nothing else and not pausing in between, just having it on a loop. And when it fades out like, and then it goes right back into like pretty much the same thing that it was starting with. So it's like, but there is a state of mind where that sort of repetition is useful. It really was. And I was done with it by the end of the day for sure. I didn't necessarily, I was not going to listen to that for like another day or anything. But it really helped to have the song The Humpty Dance just play on a loop for me for that one day. And so, so thank you to Humpty Hump, or, Shock G. And I'm sorry I didn't learn more about the rest of your career. I didn't realize you had more of a career than that. And, I'm not really the one to be learning that, actually. I don't consider myself, a hip-hop expert or a rap expert in any sense. It was nice learning about his life after, but mostly I just thank him for that one day and helping me get through that one day. Because some of those early days in grief are just... they are days that you just have to find a way to get through. And that was one way that I got through one day. I mean, if you'd asked me any other time, like what would be a good song to like listen to on a loop for an entire workday, 8 hours, just the whole time through, and lunch and everything else, even for me, I wouldn't have guessed the Humpty Dance. I mean, how about, why not Vivaldi's Four Seasons, or, something classical, or, who knows? But certainly not a popular song that, has lyrics that are also going to repeat. It's one of those things that it just happened that way. It just happened that way. And because of that, it really hit me this week when he died. It's like, and just because of that one day, you know, I'm sure for most people, I mean, you know, I'm sure for some people who are like big Tupac fans or, you know, really into rap and whatever, and they know tons about him, and they would be really bummed. But for most people, it's like, you know, that was just sort of like almost a novelty record from, you know, back in the day, and they have no particular no particular emotions invested with it. But I happen to, and it's almost, it's bizarre even to think about, because it's like, why this song? I don't know. But I mean, I kind of so anyway. But anyway, that I think that's enough of the Humpty Dance story for this week. I will keep writing. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to be able to salvage the story that I had started and turn it into a real story, or if I really just need to start over. It's going to be a little rough because this is also a new TeenyCast week, so I'm going to have to figure out some way to get some writing done right away so that I can really make sense of this and figure it out and go one way or the other. But in any case, thank you for listening. If you have any comments about this episode or previous episodes, CryptoBiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. And thank you for listening. Words and Music copyright 2021, CryptoBiography LLC, all rights reserved. Characters and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.